Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dear Judy channel, Things My Mother Never Told Me, and Happy Easter to everyone. I think it's a good time for me to move to our first video. I did promise you that I would prove to you, show you God's grace, and prove to you that God does exist. If when I'm done, after showing you a picture as well to go along with my story, then sometimes people just can't accept it for a number of reasons. And I don't want to get into that because that's your own personal beliefs and your path that you have to follow. But to begin with my story, you need to know where I came from and why all this happened. So, when I was 9 years old, my mother had left and I was raised by my dad. And so it was very difficult for a man back in the 60s, showing my age, to raise a daughter, especially a Teamster Local 251. I'll never forget, he used to give me the pins. And it was very hard for him. It was a long journey for all of us. Back in the day, women did not leave their husbands, and that's what happened. My mom left. But anyways, no worse for wear. Actually, that's not true. But everything is a life lesson, and that's why I'm here to share mine and hopefully maybe save you. In other videos, some of the um, problems that I had in my life. I've learned a lot in my life and through other people that have come in contact with me in my life, their journey, which was also some of them were difficult and some easy, which I could never understand why mine was so complex. I do know now it was lessons I needed to learn. And I consider myself an old soul, and I'm sure there's some old souls out there. My um, friend of mine actually is also an old soul. You know, if you are an old soul. But, anyways, let's get to the story. I don't want to delay this any longer. I don't want to lose you. Also, if you can like, subscribe, and share this story, especially after I show you proof that God does exist. So, I was raised by my dad, and so I was daddy's little girl. I think some people can relate to that feeling of closeness that you have with, with your dad. And unfortunately, I my dad ended up with cancer, lung cancer from smoking cigarettes, and I was supposed to be getting married about a year and a half after my father would have passed. And so this is where the journey begins and my story. So, what happened was my father told us that he had lung cancer, and he never said that he was going to die. He never said anything about it, and he never did. We just took one day at a time. But I had planned on getting married a year and a half after that, and he wasn't going to be there. And we actually called his doctor, who did not want to relinquish the information. I don't think he could have. Anyways, but I started crying, and my brother was on the other end, and he said, "My sister is getting married, and we need to know when, how long we have to be able to have my dad walk me down the aisle." And he said 3 months, to which I started crying hysterically. And so the um, the doctor said that 12 weeks would be probably the maximum for me to have my father be able to do everything and be able to spend the whole day at the wedding. So we thanked him for sharing that with us and started to have the conversation, how am I going to do this? Now, if anyone out there knows anyone who's gotten married, not even back then, even now, you have to plan at least a year ahead. That you can ask anybody. You have to plan at least a year ahead for everything because they're all booked. I had 12 weeks to plan. So I started going around looking for dresses for my bridesmaids, and everyone told me the same thing. Oh, it's at least 12 weeks to get the dress in. That we can't guarantee. And so I went from bridal boutique everywhere I could find a bridal boutique. and I did miss one because my sister-in-law was my future sister-in-law at the time, said, "Did you try House of Brides?" And I said, "No, that's probably the last one that I um, didn't get around to trying." At this point, I had given up. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I had some of the ladies that owned the boutiques telling me, "Well, we could always do a rainbow wedding. We could pick one of every color that's on the rack." And, nowadays you could probably do something like that. But back then, it was just basic color and maybe one color different for a junior bridesmaid. But it was all just old school, one color, whatever your favorite color was. And my favorite color, was hoping for royal blue when I first started thinking about planning for my wedding. But she said, my sister-in-law said, "Why don't you go see her?" I did talk to her because I do know her from a previous wedding that she was in. And she said she might be able to help you. So I said, okay. So I went down and I told her that my father, was dying. I had 12 weeks. And she said she knew my sister-in-law had explained everything to her. And she said, "I think I can help you." She said, "I'm not sure if it's what you're going to want or like even." But she said a girl had planned her wedding and the future groom changed his mind. He literally just changed his mind at the last moment. All the girls' dresses for that bride were already purchased, sitting on a rack and tailored. They all were tailored for them. She said, "I can show you. You might be able to order one." Or, she asked me, how many girls do you have? I said, "Well, I have five, and my junior bridesmaid also." And she said, "Well, she had five, as well. And she actually did have a junior bridesmaid." And so, I said, "Okay." She said, "I don't know if you like the color." And she said she went to get it and she came out and I said, "That's the color I wanted." It was royal blue, the color that I had wanted, and the dresses were beautiful at the time. Now, if you see them, they're kind of gaudy because it's back in the 80s type of dress. But I just loved them. And so she said, "Well, we could probably maybe order one if one or two didn't fit, for your girls." And so I said, "What sizes are they?" So she showed me, and this is the picture. Okay, here are the five girls and my junior bridesmaid. Okay. If you notice at the top, I wrote down this one needed a 5'6". This one needed a 7'8". This one needed a 5'6". This one needed a 1'2". And my junior bridesmaid, who was 11 years old, needed a size 11'12". So let's not forget my best friend right here. Okay. She actually needed a very large size because she was 8 months pregnant and a size 20. That's what she needed to be altered around her belly. We had every single size to fit every single person, including my junior bridesmaid. And obviously, the light blue color I wanted for my junior bridesmaid, my niece. So I show you the picture. I would like to say to anyone out there, what are the odds that I would get 6 dress sizes exactly what I needed, exactly the color that I wanted? Whenever she brought out the junior bridesmaid's dress, she didn't know I wanted light blue. She walked out and said, she was already pale by this time. And she walked out and showed me. She said, "This is her junior bridesmaid." I said, "Oh." She said, "It's not royal blue." I said, "I didn't want royal blue. I wanted a light blue." And by this time, this lady didn't even know what to say. She saw a miracle, God's grace before her very eyes. I had every single dress, every single size, the color I wanted, the style that I thought was gorgeous. If you go through a bridal boutique, there's a million different styles of dresses. I had everything that I needed to be able to have my wedding for my dresses. And my dress was also there. My grandmother actually paid for my dress. God bless her soul. So I had every dress. So I ask you, what are the odds for this? I can't even imagine what the odds would be, but it gets better. Okay, so now I had all the dresses. None of them needed to be altered except for my maid of honor, who was 8 months pregnant, and it had to be tailored so it fit her nice around her belly. Because the girl's best friend, she told me her best friend was a very large girl, and that she could actually order a dress to fit my maid of honor. And I said I needed a large, dress because my maid of honor is 8 months pregnant. And this, honestly, this woman that owned that boutique, of all the weddings that she did, I have no doubt that this is one that she'll always remember. So let me continue with my story because it still has more blessings to it. God's grace. God bless. So now I had under 12 weeks again to find a church. Everything is booked ahead. I called our local church, the one that my father actually even got married at, and um, obviously one that I did get married at, excuse me. And they said they had only one day open because someone canceled, and it was September 25th. And I said, that'll work because it was within my 12 weeks. It was about 10 and a half, maybe 11 weeks that so my father could attend the wedding. And so I said, I'll take it. And it was at a certain time. That one slot was open for me at the church in my town. Now you also have to remember these dresses, it was the next town over for me that this girl went and picked out all her dresses. So I'm over just one town over. So it gets better. Now I needed a reception hall. I called around and everybody was booked. A year and a half. I couldn't find anything. So there was one place that we used to go to eat, and they had a hall upstairs. They had family style chicken, which obviously was in our budget because we were rushing things along. And they had one day open, September 25th, the day of my wedding. And so I booked it. And they actually was Savini's restaurant. They were so gracious knowing the story. They went above and beyond and even did a few extra things because they knew everything about my dad. I had explained everything. So I had my church, I had my reception, I had every single dress already tailored, excuse me, except for one. I had a light blue for my junior bridesmaid. So with that being said, I would like to ask you, what are the odds that that all of this would have fallen into place within the time frame that I also needed? As I said before, it's very difficult for people to believe in God. Some people, it does come natural too. It does for me. It's always been that way in my family. But even myself, sometimes you question, and that's very normal. You don't ever feel bad about yourself questioning. Um, It's understanding why you do. That's the important thing because we're only human. Even Jesus on the cross questioned his Father, and that was the day before he passed away. Okay. And so, again, being human, we do wonder. And I do sometimes too, and I have the facts. I know, and this isn't even the only time that I've been blessed by God's grace. And we can get into that another time. I think it goes with being an old soul. But again, we'll do another discussion and another video on that. But I really, really hope that you can find your faith because that's what faith is. Faith is just trying to believe and worshiping God in your way. We all have to find our own way for worshiping him as well. I know that we're taught in Sunday school to do things a certain way, whether it's a church or a Christian church as opposed to a Catholic church. Um, there are many ways to worship at home. It's whatever your beliefs are or wherever you feel comfortable with. Okay, and again, we'll get into that discussion on another time. But today, being Easter weekend, and I really just wanted to share this and tell you there is hope for you in the trials and tribulations I am a sinner. For me to have this blessing, I have done things in my life that I know I have to atone to, but God always forgives. It's harder for us to forgive ourselves than it is for God. All you have to do is ask from your heart, please forgive me for my sins. I keep saying that I am going to hell because of something that I know that I did. And that one I'll share with you on this Easter weekend. And then we'll say goodbye until next time. But my daughter, my youngest daughter, wanted to become a nun. She was about 19 years old and obviously being raised in Christian faith. She really genuinely wanted to be a nun. And it was in her heart of hearts to do so. And I talked her out of that. And that is what is going to, that's why I keep saying it's going to send me to hell, because she just had so much love to give. And she was kind, still is, and gentle and affectionate. And she had everything, every qualification to be a great mom. And I just told her, I said, I see you as having, children in your life, if this is what you want to do. But I personally just see you being a great mom. And I did talk her out of it. She is a great mom. She's everything I could hope for a mom to be for my grandchildren. And I've even told her she was a better mom than I was. I raised my girls by myself. That's another story for another day. Being a single mom is very difficult, and we need help with people, that and the father of the children. Um, but today, I want to say Happy Easter. Stay hopeful in your life. I know there's a lot of problems right now in this whole entire world. In your own life, there's so many things that are affecting so many people, from money, relationships, the economy, being able to pay your bills, um, the difficulties that causes between a husband and a wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. Um, this just have hope. That's what I'm asking. Just have hope. Things are going to get better. I promise you that. Things always change. Things are always changing in your life. I promise you that as well. They will always change, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. But whichever one that is, it's still going to change. And again, we'll discuss that in other videos. So today, I'd like to say Happy Easter. God bless you. Watch over you and keep you safe and your family. Help keep your faith strong. And until next time, thank you and God bless.